You're listening to Mary Walter.
Welcome to Mary Walter Radio, the podcast. How are you? How is everyone tonight on this Thursday night? James is running a little late. He teaches a class on Thursday nights, and Apparently, his students have a lot of questions or some such nonsense. It's also a really, 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 really crummy night in New Jersey. We've got a really bad storm. We're expecting like 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and pouring. So he's probably having a little trouble with the weather as well. So we will wait for him. Boy, some comments already. Look at this. Al wants everyone to know that he's first. Oh, wait, I think the music is still playing. Is it not? Yes, it is. Okay, there we go. Al is first. Hi, Al. How are you? Oh, let me bring up Getter as well so I can see. Don, hi from Essendon, Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. Hello. Uh, let's see, Al. Then once more, just like before, I'm bouncing around the room. Do you see the face you were frozen for Tuesday's show? So yeah, so if you go to the YouTube channel, just go to YouTube and look for Mary Walter Radio. If you go there, you'll notice that there's like a little screenshot for each show. So the screenshots that were offered, it was the funniest one. And I kind of figure if you put like a funny screenshot, it gets people's attention. And so they'll click on it and watch. So the show he's talking about is Life with Mary Walter, which is a show that I do on Tuesdays. It's not political. I try to have fun with it. We try to laugh and stay away from politics. I figure one political show a week is enough, and that's tonight. And as you know, on tonight's show, on this show, we like to talk about news that you probably haven't heard. Now, some of you, I get notes every now and then. I've heard all that. Okay, maybe you have. But what I try to do is pick topics or stories that I see during the week that I don't really hear a whole lot about in mainstream media. So we're not going to talk about the January 6th committee because it's a joke. I'm not going to give it any airtime. They don't deserve it. They truly don't. So yes, Al, I did see the face and I did it. I thought it was funny. Let's see who just texted me. Is this James? Oh, it's not. Hi, David Walsh over on Getter. How are you? Hi. Bill, hi, Queen Mary. Hello. Sherry's here. Yay. Ron's here. All right. So, James, while we wait for James, who is just fashionably late, I'm going to tell you something now. James will not be here. He's going to miss this. So if you missed Tuesday's podcast, we went into downsizing your parents and what you go through when your parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles or whomever. And, it's time for them to sell their home, or maybe it's you and the kids are out of the house and you just want to downsize, right? You want to get out. How about being the joke of a verdict? How about the joke of a verdict in the Parkland trial today? We'll get there. Well, actually, we won't. We're not talking about that. Ed asked that on Getter. I can't put the Getter comments on the screen. They don't cross-pollinate for whatever reason, so I have to read those. So anyway, Tuesday, if you missed the podcast, we talked about the stuff that my brother dropped in my driveway because my parents have heirlooms that they can't part with. And one of them, the piece de resistance was the half-burned Yankee Candle because it's still good. It's usable. But they had a lot of albums, a ton of albums, my parents' albums and my grandparents. These are my mother's parents' albums. And some of them were pretty cool. So I had saved one to the very end and I forgot about it because I just passed through and I forgot about it. So I'm sharing it with you now because this was the piece de resistance, and then we'll get into politics. But I wanted to share. So if you saw it on Tuesday, and if you didn't, go back and watch it because we had a great time. We had so much fun with this. So my parents actually paid money for Songs of the Humpback Whale. Clearly a 1970s buy, clearly. And it's not just not an album. Oh, no. Look at this thing. It has the humpback songs. Like this is the music for the humpback whales. I don't know if you could see this. Can you see the music here for the humpback whales? That's their music. That's their songs. And then there's an entire slowed down solo whale, the solo whale, tower whales, distant whales, songs from recordings at normal speed of the whales, distant whale, lovely mysterious sounds that are probably from a very distant whale, 3-whale trip. These are humpback whales, and on and on. And it's open. So my parents actually played this album because it's open. So it's not one of these ones that was sealed that they they never got around to opening. No, no, no. This one's open. So I think it's hilarious. I can't get this back in here. I think it's hilarious. And I just like this is even better than what was the wench and whining one. See, and there's all the pictures of the whales. See the whales? And oh, it comes with a booklet. It comes with a booklet with all your different whale species in it. So here are all the pictures of the whales. And oh, it's in like Chinese or Japanese or something. And then there's all your different whale families, if you can see those, the whales, all of that. The nature of whales. And this thing goes on and on and on and on and on. Look at this. This is all about the different whales, how whales dive, the humpback whale, and all it's just goes on and on. Greta Thunberg would have loved my parents, apparently. So this again, I think this was the 70. How whales are killed is a very sad chapter. The business of killing whales. Yeah. Since 1945, more and more whales have been killed to produce less and less oil. Anyway, so and then there's a lovely picture. Look at that. Those are the grappling hook, whatever, and the whale blood. So it was really, really touchy-feely. This album was which is weird because I just never thought of my parents in that way. I lost my headset and my earplug. I never thought of them as like touchy-feely, like green people. I guess they were, but so I just thought that was hilarious. So I just thought that was so funny. That to me was the one I wanted to save till the end, and I forgot. So if you liked that, I'm telling you, go to YouTube and watch Life with Mary Walter, the one that we just recorded on Tuesday. So that was the 11th. And it's on Getter if you go to my profile. If you're watching on Getter, if you go to my profile, you could just scroll down on my profile. It should be right there. I remember that you forgot. No such thing as an evolution or millions and billions of years ago. God created everything about 6,000 years ago during creation week. Okay. All right. Fine. That's fine. You do you. All right. Since James is not here, let us carry on. Now, I had so many stories for today because I keep them on my phone, and my phone has something like 78, tabs open on it. I'm that person. I'm like, oh, I'll save this till later. And eventually my phone just explodes and it has to update, and it updates and I lose everything. So, I had to whittle them down because otherwise this would be, I would be bored by the end of it. So I try to pick the best stories, and I want to thank Pete, who usually chimes in on Getter. Pete is a listener from back in my WHAS days, and he's been wonderful. And he's followed me to when I did Life with Mary Walter with James, and he's great. And he sent me a couple of stories. And the funny thing is that some of the stories he sent me, I had. So we definitely are on the same wavelength. So the first thing I think is the biggest story. So there's some good ones in here. So I don't know if you saw it, like was making the rounds on Twitter, but it wasn't a huge, I just didn't see it everywhere. And I watched Morning Joe this morning just to see. And I did not see it when I was watching Morning Joe. It was all about January 6th, the January 6th Commission, Trump's a Nazi, blah, 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 the same old, same old. But the Associated Press reported on this story. And here's what they said. They said Saudi Arabia said Thursday, so today, earlier today, that the U.S. had urged it to postpone a decision by OPEC and its allies, including Russia, to cut oil production by a month. Such a delay could have helped reduce the risk of a spike of gas prices ahead of the U.S. midterm elections next month. So here's the AP. So Biden apparently went to the Saudis and the Russians and all those countries that we're buying our oil from, because we can produce it here, but Biden refuses to, and asked them, because they said we're cutting oil production. They told Biden to pound sand when he asked them to increase production. They go, no, we're not increasing it, and you know what? We're going to decrease it. So they told him to go pound sand. And so he said, okay, but could you do that? Could you wait a month? Can you do it after cut it a month, because it'll be after the midterms, basically is what he was saying. Now, the AP doesn't say after the midterms. They just said to wait a month. And look who's here. Hello.
Hello.
You missed my update to Tuesday's podcast, one of my parents, the best album ever.
Oh no.
You missed it. I went through the whole thing.
That's great.
And it has a booklet. An entire album of whale songs.
Great stuff.
Okay, so we're talking about Biden asking the Saudis to increase production, and they said, no, as a matter of fact, we're going to decrease production. We're cutting production. And according to the AP and Reuters and a whole bunch of others, apparently Saudi Arabia released a statement throwing Biden under the bus, saying Biden asked us to hold off on the cut for another month. In other words, he wanted the cut not to happen until after the midterms.
Right.
Now,
which is obvious
AP,
why. I mean, you know.
Right. The AP pointed out that the Saudi statement made no direct reference to the midterms, but even the AP said holding off on the cuts would have likely delayed any rise in gas prices until after the elections.
Right.
So here's
his
Joe
bargaining
Biden.
tip was if you're not gonna up your production, then can you at least hold off on holding your production until after the midterms?
Right. So he's using foreign policy to influence the election.
Right.
Right. Rick Grinnell tweeted out, for Biden, gasoline prices creeping up could affect voters. Needless to say, if the AP noted the connection between the two, they weren't alone. This is just a sample of the reaction from conservative Twitter, weaponizing foreign policy for political gain. Another Twitter user, Joe Biden pushed Saudi Arabia to keep oil prices low until after the midterm so he can both take credit for their drop and give Democrats more to run on, which is clear-cut election interference. Saudi Arabia told him to piss off and told America to get their act together. Another one, I don't know who Carmine Sabia is. This is impeachable, to attempt to coerce a foreign nation to not cut oil production so you can dupe American voters until after the election. Now, the White House says, we presented Saudi Arabia with an analysis to show that there was no market basis to cut production targets and that they could easily wait for the next OPEC meeting to see how things develop. John Kirby said that in a statement. Other OPEC nations communicated to us privately that they also disagree with the Saudi decision, but felt coerced to support Saudi's direction. Like, well, you know, the other girls said that they're just being mean and they agree with us, but they got to go along with the mean girl. But do you remember Donald Trump was impeached over an alleged phone call with Ukraine that was leaked? That wasn't even close because about trying to influence the actions of a foreign nation for partisan political gain. That's what they were alleging. Exactly what Joe Biden just did.
By the way, I wasn't shocked when they said about Trump, but I'm not shocked Biden's doing it. And I'm sure every president before him tries these tricks. I don't doubt it at all.
But
I'm not saying Biden, it's right, by the way. I just don't doubt that this goes on. I mean, I'm sure.
So Biden should be impeached then using the Democrats' standard, right?
Give it a shot. 100%.
Yes. Unfortunately, Republicans
we need to get him out anyway. So go ahead, give it a shot.
Yeah. How much will it cost to replace our emergency supply? Exactly. And we're selling our emergency supply to China.
You know, the evil taking over Taiwan.
I can't. I am still shocked. I am shocked he's still president. Ed, it sounds like the Saudis want Biden out. I think the Saudis kind of like Biden in because he's so easy to push around. He's terrible at this. Like Obama. He's terrible at foreign policy. Obama was better than Biden.
He is threatening the Saudis in some vague way, as much as you can get away with threatening the Saudis. You know, as much as we can get away with threatening China, right? Like, how far can we look? We can threaten all day long. We can threaten Russia, and there's nuclear war thought. You know what I mean? Like, we're not intertwined with them the way we are with, let's say, China or even Saudis, right? I mean, we're really intertwined with China. I mean, war with China means we don't have anything.
And the big guy, and the big guy's beholden to China.
Huh?
But as far as we know, the big guy's beholden to China.
Yeah, well, maybe.
They own it. As far as we know, they own him. And apparently, nobody has any interest in finding out if that's true. Nobody cares. Nah, it's all right. Don't worry about it. Okay, more on elections. The U.S. Supreme Court sided with a Pennsylvania Republican. His name's David Ritter. He was a judicial candidate. He lost his race. He lost his race when undated mail-in ballots were counted along with ballots that were properly filled out. The Supreme Court vacated a ruling in May from the Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Philly that sided against him. He lost by just 5 votes, according to Reuters. If you threw out the 257 absentee ballots that were counted despite no date written on the outer envelope of the mail-in ballot, he would have won. It is required by Pennsylvania law to have the date written on the outside of the ballot. But as we know, since 2020, these commissioners of elections, et cetera, are just making their own rules. They're not going through their state legislatures as they are required to do by law. So they're just changing laws and just saying, no, we're just not going to pay attention to that law. Don't worry about it. No, you don't need that law. It's fine. Count them, right? The Supreme Court said, yeah, you can't do that.
It's kind of a problem, yeah.
Unfortunately, though, they're not going to overturn the election.
Right.
So he lost and the Democrat got in. And for them, that's all that matters. They won, right? So it doesn't matter if you proved, oh, well, our bad. We won't do it again next time. And that's that. Yeah, deadliest war weapon. Yep. He had argued that rules regarding mail-in ballots improve election administration and deter fraud. Now, it also means that the Third Circuit's ruling saying that, oh, yeah, you can count them even if they don't follow the law, if the ballots are improperly filled out and that's against the law. Don't worry about it. You can still count them because it's better to count more votes so that everybody gets a voice, even if they don't do it properly, than to follow the law. Well, because they overturned the Third Circuit, that means that you cannot do that now in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or Delaware, which are covered by the Third Circuit.
Right.
So if New Jersey, which they will, tries to do this, they can't do it. Not saying that they won't.
Right.
Because it's New Jersey.
Somebody got away with it before.
They'll have to get caught, and then it'll be, oh, take us to court. You take them to court, and then they don't care because the guy's already in. Oh, sorry, our bad. Didn't mean to not follow the rules. They get away with it. So sad. All right, one more on voting, because I was said in the beginning, James, I had so many stories. I had to pick through them and decide. But I had a couple of voting stories, election stories, that hopefully you know, some people, now you might have heard this story. It's kind of been bouncing around for a couple of days, but not really in quote unquote mainstream media. John says, we all know that Brandon has little back and non-existent bite, little bark and non-existent bite. It's very true. It's like a little chihuahua. And Saudi Arabia just kicked him. Boom. Okay, so I don't know if did you hear this story? Colorado accidentally sent over 30,000 voter registration notices to non-citizens.
No.
They accidentally sent them. You know what's really weird? It's always the Democrats who accidentally send things out like this. They're really incompetent. I mean, really incompetent.
Well, you can check a lot of cities and see that. So.
The Democratic Secretary of State, Jenna Griswold's office, blamed the error on a glitch. It was a glitch, just a glitch. I don't know how it happened. She said the mix-up occurred when the department employees compared a list of 102,000 names provided by the Electronic Registration Information Center with a database of Coloradans issued driver's licenses, including non-citizens who were issued special licenses, as many Democrat-run states like our state of New Jersey does. You don't have to be legal to get a driver's license. It just says on it can't be used for identification, can't be used for ID. So it has that on it, and so it can't be used for ID because it's just to allow them to drive.
Oh, sorry. I'm saying I don't mind somebody with a green card getting a license to be able to move around the state and not, you know, have to follow some of the same responsibilities while they're in our country. But I mean, certainly can't use that to vote.
No, but it's not just green card holders.
Non-ID purposes. How are you going to ID yourself at the voting thing if it's a non-ID license?
Because they don't ask for ID.
And in New Jersey, I should ask ID from.
And in New Jersey, my friend, it's not just green card holders. Illegal aliens can get driver's licenses. People in the country illegally can get a driver's license just like you and me.
So I've had to go through, and we don't need to go through it on this show, but in times of my life, I've had to deal with the DMV and getting of licenses and things of that nature. They have a pretty hefty thing about how you get a license. How on earth, and I know they're saying they do it, but how is it illegal to you even get a license? You just walk in and go, I have no idea and no actual place to live, but I want the card. And they're like, well, you're not a citizen, so okay.
I don't
I can't even
I don't
imagine.
know.
Like, what are you using for ID? Like, here's my thing in a foreign language. Here's my other thing in a foreign language. And oh, by the way, I live at 1244 8th Street in Camden or whatever. Like, how do you pass the 6 points if you're an illegal and get a driver's license in Jersey?
Let's see. They changed the application process to accommodate those without a social security number.
Okay, but I didn't need my social security card to get mine. I used my birth. I used my address. I used the bill I was paying. I mean, you wouldn't have an American birth certificate. You wouldn't have.
They have to prove residency. They can use property bills, property tax bills, which they're not paying, a current lease or rental agreement, bank account statements, high school or college report cards. A full list of documents is available in Hull. I'm going to English. Okay.
Or college report card.
A permanent resident card, a refugee travel document, a U.S. re-entry permit,
so those are
photo driver's license.
Sounds like ID.
Photo driver's license issued by country other than the U.S. must be presented with another government issued document. So they can use their driver's license for Venezuela. And that gets them 4 points. They only need 2 more. So they can use a document issued by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. So if they get a document from the Department of Homeland Security that says, oh, yeah, I have a court date to show up because I'm here illegally. Let's see. There's a whole bunch of stuff you could use here. Foreign government issued passport from the applicant's country of citizenship. So if you're here illegally from Venezuela and you have an ID, either you have a driver's license and a passport, boom, there you go. You got 8 points. You only need 6.
Counting a foreign driver's license as points. That's fantastic.
Also, for proof of, and you also need proof of New Jersey residency, and that could be an original unexpired lease or rental agreement with the name of the applicant, a checking or savings account statement, utility or credit card bill. So they could have their utility bill because they got an apartment, their lease, copy of that. First class mail from any government agency within the past 6 months, addressed to you. It's crazy.
First class thing from a government agency that says you are trying to get your citizenship. And I'd go, there's at least a bow on it. But nope, no bow. This is just a shit sandwich, huh?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, well, because, they got to get to work. You got to make it easy for them. So there you go.
They could look here illegally. They could just drive you legally.
I know.
Legally, and
I'm pretty sure that if you get hit by one, they don't have insurance. I'm 99.9% sure that if you get hit by someone who's in the country illegally, they don't have insurance, and it's all on you. Too bad, so sad. That's the way it's going to be.
Isn't that why you would get a license though, so you could have insurance? Like I see, look, I'm really trying to eventually do this the right way. I want to have insurance. I want to have a driver's license. So when I show up, I show that I've been here trying to be a good person, and maybe they'll give me the thing I'm looking for. But if you're not even participating in the thing you're looking for,
yep,
and you don't have insurance, you may as well just not get the thing and just drive around like a freewheeling guy.
Well, there you go. Why even bother? Why even bother going through the hoops to get the license? You're 100% right.
It's almost more nefarious. It's almost like, hey, I'm actually here illegally. Look, I got this piece of paper card that's here. I mean, I'm not illegal. Is the cop really going to run your thing or check your thing if you have a license?
Well, it says on it, it says not for ID purposes. So that's how you know that person is not here legally. It says not for identification, for ID purposes on the license. It's kind of like people who have a driver's license who are under the age of 21, so they can't use it for getting into bars and stuff. Instead of their license being horizontal, their license is vertical.
So what would be? I understand. Like this is to make Democrats feel good or whatever. But I'm still missing like the What is this serving?
I don't
Right?
know.
What are you doing? I mean, so you're going to get pulled over. You're here illegally. Now they're going to take you anyway, right? I mean, what's the
Oh
point?
no, if you get pulled over and you're illegal, it's not illegal to be in the country illegally. You just say, I'm waiting my court date. It's 3 years away. I'm waiting my court date.
And there's no check process.
No. Why are you such a
You were on
racist?
my mind, I'm both soft and big stick. Like, you know.
And you're a racist because you think that there should be some kind of control in these people because they're mostly brown people should be sent back. So you're a racist. How does that feel? So that's how liberals argue. The office is undertaking an internal review of the incident and will take any corrective action that is warranted. My question is, how do you walk this back? How do you walk it back? You sent official government papers to people, over 30,000 people who can't vote. They got a paper for the government saying, here, register to vote. Even if 15,000 of them register to vote, how are you going to find them? They don't go through the rolls. One of her defenders says, it should show, first of all, that mistakes can happen. So the system's working. They're saying the system's working because it shows that mistakes can happen, but there are checks in place to make sure that mistakes don't result in disaster. I don't understand how this isn't a disaster. Sounds like a disaster to me. Now, she's running for re-election as Secretary of State because I guess in Colorado you can vote for her. And she'll probably win because it's Colorado. Because Democrats are hoping all these people become citizens and they vote.
There's a lot of Republicans in Colorado too, though.
But Colorado, it's like every other state. The city, Denver, the city centers are very blue.
Exactly.
So, okay. So, I'm done with election stories. This next story, though, I think is going to spur conversation.
Okay.
And I have to thank Pete for sending this to me. So thank you, Pete. Because I did not see this.
He sent me too, but I'll tell you about that later.
I'm sorry?
He sent an awesome meme, but I'll send that to you later.
Oh, he did. He did about our picture.
Yeah. We saw that one too. Yeah.
Well, Al commented about our picture in the beginning of the show. He goes, do you know what? I was like, yes, I chose it purposely because it makes people look at it and go, what the heck? And it catches your eye and they'll click on it and they'll watch the video. So there you go. Speaking of which, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do. Please like the videos. Really appreciate if you would do that. Just click on them. That's fantastic. We do appreciate that. Okay. So the Biden administration's requirements for who has to register for selective service includes the following. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
U.S. citizens or immigrants who are born male and change their gender to female are still required to register. Individuals who are born female and change their gender to male are not required to register.
Wait, back that one out. The last second part.
Individuals born female, women who become men are not required to register, but men who become women are required to register.
How have we gotten to a point that women don't have to register for selective service yet? I thought we got to a point now where women in combat and everybody's going to have to register for selective service.
Nope.
Huh.
They say almost all male U.S. citizens and male immigrants who are 18 through 25 are required to register with selective service. So now here's the thing. When he became president, one of the first things Biden did was sign an executive order because he said, remember that huge stack of executive orders, which is why we are no longer energy dependent. We have open borders because he overturned everything that Trump did. One of those executive orders, yes, he's admitting that men are men and women are women. Isn't this great? Sherry got it right away. Absolutely. That's exactly what's happening. One of the executive orders said that those who identify as transgender should be treated by the military according to their gender identity and not according to their biological sex. So transgender men who identify as women would serve in the women's ranks alongside women, and they would serve in women's units in the event that they were called up for selective service.
Yeah, that's the even dumber part of the policy, right? That's even more bonkers. Doesn't make it any better at all.
I
So
know.
we acknowledge you, but only kind of.
But it's hilarious, right? Because haven't we been told all along that men can have babies and that there is no such thing as gender? It's a construct. It's fluid. Gender's fluid. Here's the Biden administration who is so pro transgender, right? And they're so that isn't one of their don't they have like a guy who wears dresses as one of their like the energies are or some such nonsense. You've seen that guy? This way out there comes to work in like outlandish garish heels and sparkly dresses and makeup and the whole thing, but still looks like a dude. We support that, and they're into all of that stuff. And if he can do the job, God bless him. I truly don't care what he wears as long as he's good at his job. You rock on, dude. That's fine with me. But here they are saying that he has to register for selective service because despite him feeling like a woman, dude, you're a man. You got to sign up. Hilarious.
I can't believe at this point in the world, like, forget the debate about gender, right? Look, they obviously they're doing somewhat makes some sense.
Oh,
that's funny.
Wait, my speakers just started to test. Remember that happened one time?
Yeah, it happened again, huh?
It's doing it right now. Boop. Testing your speakers on StreamYard.
That's weird.
They just told me to have a great show because it sounds like my speakers are working.
Good to know. Thanks, computer.
So weird.
That is
yeah. Go ahead. Still going. Go ahead.
I just read his quote. Just register everybody.
Listen,
register everybody, men and women, put them all in selective.
I think everybody can do something.
Then not if you're he, she, he, him, or real he, or we, her, or you're real he or real her. Everybody, just get them all.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Because I think everybody can do something, even if you're handicapped. If you're in a wheelchair, you can sit behind a desk and do something to serve your country. I think this country gives us a ton of opportunities, and I don't think it's wrong to ask people to spend a year or two of their life paying it back. I just don't.
No.
So I'm kind of with you. I also think bringing back the draft, and I know this is going to be a huge thing, but I'm sorry?
Or a mandatory 2 years like in Israel or other countries where they do that kind of thing.
Right, because we have an entire identity, an entire generation of men and more and more women who need their butts kicked, right? Who would benefit from some kind of discipline that you get in boot camp and you get in the military. And there's consequences for bad actions, and you don't talk back to me because I'm going to kick your butt, et cetera, and so forth. Unfortunately, they've really kind of softened up and feminized the process. You can't yell at them. They can't berate them. Mayonnaise from an officer and a gentleman. You can't call them names, that kind of stuff. So, but I do think that there's an entire generation that would really benefit from it.
No, you're right. I don't agree with you. I think 100% too. I did see, look, I'm shocked I'm going to say this, but I saw Nick Simmons in an interview. That's Gene Simmons' son. Now, I remember, everybody remembers him from the Simmons thing if you watch the show when he's now a 33-year-old adult, and he's brilliant. When I say brilliant, I mean well-grounded, brilliant human, right? And he said something I found really fascinating, which, I feel like it's probably like me, where and this is the part of my life, the libertarian in me that leans left. So I'm perfectly fine with the gender concept or how they're doing it. I don't really have that issue. I think what he said that made it right, and this does rely on the way the military's dumbly handling it too, or weirdly handling it too. Nobody asked for that to happen, right? It's been like either the one, most of a real far right side is like, well, that's never going to happen. We're never going to allow, it's terrible. Men are just men, women are just women. And, there's no Steve and Steve babies and whatever that is, right? And then the far left is like, well, none of that exists. There's no gender whatsoever. And everybody can live these free-willing lives, right? The real conversation would have been like, hey, we have this way that we see to live now. And there's some science behind it, and we want to talk about it. And then you have a discussion, right? You can't just rip society from how it was. As wrong as I think the people on the far right are, I sympathize with the concept of you can't just come in and like a Band-Aid, rip this off with zero education for the populace and go, this is how it's going to be from now on. There's no women, no men. Sorry. You just can't do that anymore. Then you can't take away anybody's rights or anything sort of like that. I mean, you had to have a time period where you said, we're going to create this change over time. We're going to start to. Does that make sense? Am I being silly? I'm
there's
sure
never
succinctly, but you get my point. It's really I'm pro this, but I do sympathize with the concept. You can't just expect the universe to understand it. And from a military perspective, look how confusing the government is making it. They're telling these people they're not what you say you are, but then we're going to put you where you say you are.
Exactly.
So, it's a real, like, I don't know, I said shit sandwich already, but it really is like a real shit sandwich. Like, nobody's happy and nobody's talking, right? It's not, it goes sort of where our country's going, but that's not good. I don't think anybody would have been so against this over a time period when you're not throwing it down people's throats. There's plenty of people like you that maybe don't necessarily perfectly believe in it, but you're also a live and let live person.
Yes, I can't get behind this compelled speech. I demand that you call me Caesar, right? And if you accidentally say him, they sue you and you're out of a job. That kind of stuff is way too far. Sherry makes a great point here, right? And thank you for your service, Sherry. If there was a dude claiming to be a girl in my shower, I would have freaked the F out. Yeah, right? So why should women have to deal with that? Why should they have to deal with that? It doesn't make any sense.
Right, and you see my point, like, if you had taken the time and care to make a system that works that way, you're not doing that, right? You're going, well, these people that have had this sort of gender are going to have to use these bathrooms. And these people who are just women can shower over here. And the guys who are just men, they can shower over here. And the guys that are on that spectrum in between, well, they can shower over here. Right? Like, you're thinking out a process for something that inevitably is never going to go away, but you can't just go, well, it's not, because it is.
I think in 20 years, 15 years, maybe even less than that, when all of these kids who had like their breasts chopped off or had their penises chopped off because when they were 8, they decided that they were the opposite gender, when they get older and they realize that, oh, I was a tomboy or whatever, you're going to see a huge backlash against this whole thing, and a lot of it goes away.
Stop it, Mary. You're a bigot. You can't talk like that. You are not say that. It's not, you are misgendering these poor people that are just getting their genital. You're not.
See, he's absolutely right. I'm okay with you, just don't shove it down my throat and don't expect me to pretend that you really are a unicorn. Okay, moving on, because look at the time. I told you I had a lot of stuff. This to me is another super interesting story. Something you didn't hear. This was a Breitbart story. I will put the links for all the stories at the bottom of in the description of this podcast as soon as we get off the air. And I can John says you're on fire and he loves it. Okay. So the FBI's Uniform Crime Report, the UCR, showed over twice as many people in 2021 were killed with knives and other cutting tools than were killed with rifles in 2021. What does left do? We have to get rid of assault rifles. We have to get rid of assault rifles. They're killing people. Nope. Over more than twice as many people killed with knives that you can just buy in a grocery in a store, right? You can get a hatchet at Home Depot and walk out with it in your hand. Nobody cares. And there was that guy in McDonald's in New York with a hat swinging a hatchet around, remember?
Yeah.
It showed that 447 people were killed with rifles, while 1,035 people were killed with knives or cutting instruments. The UCR also showed more than 3.5 times more people were killed with knives or cutting instruments in 2020 than were killed with rifles. 3.5 times more. 454 people shot or killed in 2020. 1,732 were stabbed or hacked to death. In 2019, 4 times as many people were stabbed to death than killed with a rifle of any kind. 1,525,000 people stabbed to death. For 2018, a similar finding with over 5 times as many people stabbed to death. Now it's nice to see that either the stabbings are slowing down and the shootings are catching up, whichever. But still, so the whole thing of we have to get rid of assault rifles, we have to keep people safe, they're killing machines. No. The knife that anyone can go buy that you have in your kitchen, not locked, they don't have any kind of security on them whatsoever. Your kid can climb up on the counter and grab and stab their brother because he decapitated her Barbie doll.
Now,
no control.
So it doesn't. I'm just curious how that compared to the pistol statistics, which is probably the more deadly weapon of the two, which nobody's saying to ban, by the way. But yeah, they're probably the one used in more murders than rifles, because rifles would be in the big high profile, I killed 10 people because you could get more bullets out per se or whatever. But I mean, how many more of there are just stabbings and regular shootings and one-offs, one person, and there are these, the mass ones, right? I mean, the ones where people are being stabbed or shot once or whatever. And most of those shot once are probably not with a rifle or shotgun. They're probably with a pistol.
Let me see.
Let's see.
Not
a lot of sniper things happening with M16s, or I'm sorry, AR-15s, whatever.
Let's see.
I don't remember hearing the last time there was an AKS home invasion.
Handguns, automatic, 166 deaths. Knives are cutting in 2020. A knife or a cutting instrument, 877.
Yeah, so it's still
more than handguns too.
In the one-offs, right, where people aren't running out and mass killing people, it's easy to grab a knife and just cut somebody up. It's just, and goes to how the patch of the crime probably works. Usually if you have a gun in your hand, you have time to think about it. I'm going to go over here. I got my gun. I got to go. Think how easy it is to grab a knife and stab somebody with no thought, right? No care. I thought those people who had knives were thinking it out. I don't have statistic, but I'll bet a lot of them were passion crime, at the moment.
Right. Of course.
Where the gun crimes are less took thought, right? They took I'm going to go over there and shoot.
Right.
You didn't just have the gun and pull it out and shoot. I'm sure that happens, but.
How many people, when we come upon the holidays, especially Thanksgiving, you read stories about, somebody stabbed grandma, because they get in these family fights, they just pick up a knife, boom, and because they're angry and they have a fit of rage and that's what they do.
Yeah. Or you run somebody over with your car, by the way, or you hit them with a bat, or any of those things.
Blunt objects.
Objects of opportunity, right? I'm so mad, this guy's going to run his ass over. You know what I mean? It's
also, more people being killed by hands, fists, and feet.
Well, that's a hard way to die. Boy, that's a brutal death.
Well, you see it on the streets of New York and Philly all the time.
You're not wrong.
Right?
Not wrong.
Go try to go to McDonald's in Chicago and see how that works out for you. All right, moving on. Biden's DHS they're giving cell phones to these illegals so they can quote unquote track them, because they have to know where they are because they have their court dates that are coming up and, so they have to know where they are.
And they couldn't put their phone down.
Yeah, they couldn't possibly ditch the phone or give it to somebody else. It could never happen, right? So it's so secure. They have given cell phones with the intent of tracking their whereabouts to more than 255,000 border crossers and illegal aliens released into the United States over the last year. 255,000. In the meantime, we have homeless vets sleeping over bridges who don't have cell phones, which is disgusting. Grandma got run over by a reindeer. Very funny.
Wrong grandma. It's awesome.
Let's see. The phones are meant to be used so they can track their location. The phones cannot be used to search the internet or make other calls. So they're going to dump them because they can't use them for anything else. The cost to American taxpayers is more than $360,000 every day. Every day. For comparison, only 26,000 border crossers and illegal aliens were given the cell phones for monitoring purposes in fiscal year of 2021. The Biden administration has increased the use of the program 880%. They are spending our money like drunken sailors, and no offense to drunken sailors.
God, how much better places could that money go?
I know. The government doesn't try to ban knives because when they decide to take away your freedom, you can bring a knife to a gunfight, and we all know how that ends. It's not about keeping us safe. One per family. There you go. The number of border crossers and illegal aliens released on the non-detained docket now exceeds more than 3.3 million. That population, with a foreign population in this country under Biden, with no immigration status, that is 7 times the population of Miami, Florida. Less than 10% are actually being monitored with those cell phones, as far as that monitoring goes. Less than 10%. About 2.2 million border crossers and illegal aliens have arrived since Biden took office. 2.2 million. So he's on track to bring in about over 8 million in 4 years.
I cannot understand. It works for Spain. It works for France. There's vague other concepts of this in other countries. How do we not have an American Foreign Legion with people just pouring over the border? What a win for Biden that would be. Just like, all right, round these people up and go, here's your choice. You can serve here. You
because
can change your name, just like, as long as you didn't rape or murder, you can have a new identity, and in 6 years you can be an American. You'll have served our country, and by the way, you might be the first group we send into a hotspot. I'm just saying, but 6 years.
well, because he wants to give them things so they'll vote for him when he knows they all become citizens, because they're not going to be rounded up and sent back. They're here forever.
But
He knows that. You know that. I know that. We all know that. Trump's the only one who would say, out. Trump's the only one.
Hell, make him look. We're already 15% down across the board in military recruiting. Like, this is not a dumb idea at all. I'm not the first person to mention this, by the way. I'm not the genius that thought up the American Foreign Legion, by the way. I've heard plenty of military people like, this could work. This could solve some manpower shortages. This could take care of some problems. Of course,
but they could. I believe they can do that already. You can serve and then get your citizenship.
I don't know that program still there. I know there were some dilemmas. It might still be. There were some dilemmas with that program, though. I know been some. I know during the Trump administration there was definitely some problems with that program. Check it, pull it up. It might still be there. I know there's been some dilemmas with it, but still, that's not the same thing.
Let's see. What's the date on this? The U.S. Department of Defense is expanding the existing military access in the National Interest Program to allow immigrants who are out of status to join the U.S. military. Under the new policy, recruiters will be allowed to target immigrants who are specialized in healthcare and who possess language skills. The program will be open to those who have received deferred action status under DACA. Reports show there are around 2.1 million young undocumented immigrants in the U.S. Began in 2008. This has got to be old. Well, I don't have time to look this up. We got a lot to talk about, but
we can share. But you get what a fun idea.
I love sharing. Article 4, Section 4. There you go, James. Okay.
Up. Thanks, Al.
I don't know. Yeah, look that up.
I think that's
okay.
Yeah.
Moving along before Al tells me that it's 8:02, because he will. This again, super, super, super amazing, and it comes out of Europe. And I saw it carried on Epic Times, and that was it.
Okay.
Janine Small is Pfizer's president of international developed markets, and she was testifying before the European Union Parliament. And she was asked during that testimony by a European Union member of Parliament named Rob Roos. And she was asked if Pfizer tested their mRNA vaccine on stopping transmission of COVID before they rolled it out. Does this stop transmission? Did you test it ahead of time to find out if it stops transmission? She says, regarding the question around, did we know about stopping the immunization before it entered the market? No. She said no such tests were conducted because the world was facing a health crisis, but she insisted that the vaccine at least makes the virus less deadly, and it had to be made quickly, available quickly.
So I find that statement a little dubious to how a few people I've heard talk about how they originally, how they quickly tested the thing, right? It's lots of computer modeling, right? That's the new way. That's how they tested it without having to test it for so long on people. The advanced computer modeling can show all these things and show lots of the bugs that get it up, right? That's how they got it. I can't possibly believe in the modeling that wasn't part of the testing. Like, that seems dubious at best, when the way the thing works was to model the thing and throw at it what would be going at it, and it, the computer goes, oh, well, there's no way it wouldn't have told you. Like, it seems dubious the way the science is explained to me. And look, I'm not the scientist, but I've watched.
Yeah, she is. But she is. And she said no. She said no.
Do you believe her?
Well,
I think they knew, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying.
Yeah, I think they knew that it didn't prevent transmission. Yeah, and that was the question. Did you know? Basically, did you test it to find out? And she said no.
Yeah.
So they didn't even test it to find out, but they told us that it prevents transmission. We had to move at the speed of science to really understand what's taking place in the market. And from that point of view, we had to do everything at risk. So everything was done at risk. Because remember, when everybody in this country was getting the vaccine, it was for emergency use authorization only.
Right.
It was an emergency use authorization. And remember how we were all told, if you don't get it, you're selfish because you're going to affect somebody else, right? Because you can transmit it, right? Do it to keep everyone else safe. Don't be selfish. You're keeping everybody else safe by getting the vaccine, right? Because you can't transmit it once you get the vaccine. That's what we were initially told, which was a load of horse crap.
Right. There's still people, by the way.
I'm sorry?
There's still people who believe that. I hear that statement.
Oh, I know.
Oh, well, he didn't even get his next booster. I mean, was he trying to kill us? I'm like,
James, I couldn't go to my niece's wedding.
Right.
Remember?
Yeah, I might not be able to take a sound gig because I'm first 2 plus the booster after that. I'm not the second booster and the new target.
Well, nobody's requiring the second booster. That's kind of all died out.
No, we need a third booster.
Third booster?
Well, there's
5 shots?
There's the new one now that targets the Omicron and the things, but that would be the first.
Omicron is like a cold, though, so why would you want that? It's like a cold.
Right. Well, right. I don't even have that second booster.
Why? I would stop getting boosters if I were you.
I didn't. I didn't take the gig. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, well.
So this member of parliament shared a clip of her response on Twitter. And he said, it shows that the global campaign to force vaccination to protect others was built on a lie. Millions of people worldwide felt forced to get vaccinated because of the myth that you do it for others, he says in the video. Now, this turned out to be a cheap lie. This should be exposed. He claims that the admission that Pfizer never tested its vaccination to determine if it prevented or even slowed the spread of COVID shows there was never a legitimate basis for vaccine mandates or passports, which he said led to massive institutional discrimination as people lost access to essential parts of society. I find this to be shocking, even criminal. And he's right. How many people lost their job because they refused to get vaccinated?
Yeah. Remember all the Air Force pilots, the F-35 Air Force,
right?
I don't remember the number, but it was like a swath of them were like, we're out.
Well,
these are the best.
Look at the Coast Guard. That guy that Biden called to a week or so ago after Ian to congratulate him on being such a great rescue and the great rescues and everything like that. Rescued somebody in a wheelchair and took her and the wheelchair up while he was holding everything. And, he's getting jumped out of the Corps because he won't get vaccinated.
Right.
No sense. Another EU member of parliament said the shocking admission calls into question other actions by Pfizer. They haven't tested the vaccine to see if it's stopping the spread of virus. So we're asking again, what else are they hiding? Now, this woman, who testified from Pfizer said when vaccinated people, the guy who did not testify, the CEO, she had to go in his place because he didn't want to testify. So they send in some lackey. When vaccinated people began getting COVID anyway, their cases were initially deemed as breakthrough cases. Remember that? Oh, it's a breakthrough. It's a breakthrough. Yeah. And that CEO got COVID in August. He admitted in January that the company's vaccines provide, quote, very limited protection, if any, against the Omicron variant. But get your fourth booster. You should have at least 7 shots by now. Okay, one last story, and then we're out. Sherry, I was in the Coast Guard. I'm glad I was out before all of this nonsense. Yeah, my husband's in the auxiliary, so, but they don't care about the auxiliary, so it's okay.
Sherry, they're going to call you back, and you have to go in the he, him, her bathrooms now.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the last story, I say this for last because it's kind of, I think it's just ludicrous and so therefore funny. In St. Louis, car thefts are skyrocketing, just like everywhere. The whole we're back to everybody getting their car stolen. We're back to the days of the 70s. Remember in New York, they would show pictures, no radio in the car, and for a while your radio could come out. You could take it with you so that people would see that it was gone and it wasn't worth breaking into your car to steal your radio. Remember that in the 70s? They'd show the pictures. I'm sorry.
That's catalytic converters now, by the way.
Yes. Yeah.
That's happened 3 times.
It happened to who?
My neighborhood 3 times.
Wow.
3. Townhouse community 3 times in the same little all around our area thing. I mean,
they need to go to these people who are selling catalytic converters and saying, okay, show us the registration from the car that this came from. because they need to track this a little bit better. This is like a pawn shop just selling stuff and not knowing where it came from. You can't
And
do
you
it.
know they're not taking it to reputable places. I'm guessing they're,
Mm.
I know a really good scrapyard right down the street from here, and there's no way if I just walked up with a box full of catalytic converters, they would be like, "Oh yeah, we'll give you scrap metal money for that." And it's like really, really amazing, like not amazing, really expensive, hard to find metals in catalytic converters. So they're really worth scrapping. But like I said, it's really reputable place. There's no way they would take that. But I can't imagine they're going there.
No. So apparently the cars that are being most stolen are Kia and Hyundai are the two cars that are the most stolen. Now, part of this has to do with a TikTok challenge that uses the hashtag Kia Boys. It challenges people to steal certain models of Kias and Hyundais made between 2010 and 2021 because they are not equipped with an electronic anti-theft security device called an immobilizer. The cars can be stolen with just a USB cable and a screwdriver, according to this trend on TikTok. Now, why TikTok doesn't take this down is beyond me. I don't understand why they allow this on there that says, hey, commit this crime and here's how you do it. But they didn't say the election was stolen, so I guess it's okay.
You can't, or in any way, they're really big on just being mean. I'm a big fan of Christina Brzezinski, as a comedian, Christina P. And she's taken down all the time for just doing like those side-by-side videos where she'll watch people doing something dumb and just be like, they'll take those down.
Yeah.
So mean reaction videos, they take down. Stealing a car?
No big deal.
Can I do it real quick? And I'll keep it super brief. I know.
Yes, you're very talkative tonight. Go ahead.
It's the speed. No, but if I have one conspiracy theory in the world, it's that China has TikTok destroy America. If you read the agreement for what TikTok can do, which is own everything you own and look in everything you have. And then these weird things, like they don't stop evil challenges or those kind of things, or things that seem to be like influencing the way we don't want to go, whatever, like any of that. But this kind of thing.
Yeah. That's why I'm not on TikTok or Instagram. Sorry. Everybody's like, you need an Instagram account to promote your podcast. I'm like, no, I refuse to go on either one of them because they're owned by China and they take all your stuff. So I refuse. So guess how St. Louis now is addressing this rash of thefts of Kias and Hyundais.
It's not going to be good. Go ahead. It's going to be great. Go ahead.
They're suing Kia and Hyundai because their cars are too easy to steal.
Oh. That is not. Look, these poor people on TikTok are just being influenced to do something, but it's really the car people that made it so easy for them to do something.
Right.
We've got to go after them.
Yeah. Look at this. They were wiped out in Central Florida. That's terrible. That's terrible. They sent in August, they sent a letter to Hyundai and Kia, the St. Louis leaders, demanding that they address what they're calling a defect that makes stealing vehicles made before 2021 easier to steal. They probably didn't have the technology. That's why it's in cars made after 2021. With this letter, the city demands that Kia and Hyundai mitigate the defective conditions providing thieves, including teenagers as young as 13, the instrumentalities by which they are destroying property, endangering city drivers and themselves, and in some cases committing violent felonies. With stolen Hyundais and Kias. This is the city councilor, Sheena Hamilton. This woman's a lawyer, goes on to say, Kia and Hyundai's defective vehicles have caused a public safety crisis in the city, endangering the health, safety, and peace of all who live, work, or visit the city. Your companies bear the responsibility to mitigate the public nuisance your negligence has created for the city and its residents.
You want to know what's even worse about what really? I mean, let me tell you what makes car theft a real problem. Car thieves! Car thieves make cars go away! Car thieves! Car thieves do this! Go after the car thieves, please! Go get the people stealing the cars!
I know, this is
car
like
thieves
people,
are the problem, right?
Oh, wait, but these are like the people who sue Winchester or Colt because of the gun that shot their kid. right? They don't go after the person who operated the car. We go after the inanimate object. That's what we do. Want to keep your start? Yes. Oh my gosh, James A just beat me to this. You want to keep your car from being stolen, buy a manual transmission because they can't drive them. 100% less likely to be stolen. It is the best theft deterrent. Unfortunately, Americans are lazy, and very few cars now are actual. You can't get them. You can't get them in a manual transmission. And Ron says the same thing. Look, we were looking. We have one car that is not manual transmission, just one. And that was the car that I drove down to DC and back. It's a hybrid. And so that's the car that is not manual transmission. But I know if I don't want my car to be stolen, I'm going to take one of the automatics, the manuals rather, wherever I'm going, because I know it's not going to be stolen. They may strip it, but they ain't taking it because they can't drive it.
Yeah, can't find them. Hey, Hippie, did I hear you say you got a hybrid? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, I'll tell you, it's not an all electric, but when I would fill it up, I fill it up in South Jersey because I don't know how to pump my own gas, so I couldn't fill it up once I left the state of New Jersey. And if I filled it up in South Jersey, exit 2 off 295 at the Pilot, very nice people there. They sometimes wash their windows, very super nice. On Fridays, I hit it on the way down, and I knew I had it. My tank would get me based on my driving over 660 miles to the gallon. I mean, excuse me, to the tank. To the tank, to the gallon, to the tank. And so I knew I can make it down to my apartment. I can make it to work 5 days, come home. I can maybe do a little driving around and still make it back at least to the Flying J or the Pilot. There's one on either side when I came north on Fridays. So Sundays down, Fridays home. I knew that I can make it that far. And if, so I would Always fill up at the Flying J. I was there so often, they gave me a professional driver's card.
Wow.
So I know I could take a shower there if I wanted to. Not that I ever want to take a shower there, but I could.
Yeah.
Because I have a professional driver's card.
Look at you.
I know.
I always thought hybrid was the smart of that technology, right? Like we're not exactly to a place where we can have full-on electric cars, but man, hybrids make a lot of sense.
They do.
I'm not going to be able to charge my car in a place, but at least I can get home because I still have my tank will flip over. I mean, my gas will kick in.
Yeah, exactly. And so I love the hybrid. I would buy another one. I have a Honda. It's a fantastic car. I highly recommend it. I would get another one. They have copper apparently in the catalytic converters. And by the way, our friend was watching from Don Quixote is with us from Victoria, Australia again today.
Hey,
he must think Americans are just idiots. You have to think, but if you watch Sky News Australia is awesome. They're fantastic. They are so good. They say so much stuff that I wish American would say on TV. That's what I wish would happen. So Hyundai Motor America, their spokesperson said, our vehicles are not defective and they comply with all applicable safety regulations. Notwithstanding this, we've been working cooperatively with the St. Louis Police Department and police departments and other communities to provide assistance. So you know what they're doing? They're providing steering wheel locks. The club, remember the club back in, what was that, like the 90s? When was the club popular? The 80s, 90s?
Yeah, 80s, yeah.
The club you put on there and you get your little key.
Lose that key and you are screwed.
You're so screwed if you lose
there's
the
no
key.
easy way to get that thing off at all. It's not super hackable, It's really
So I just had to share that because I thought that was just absolutely hilarious, that last story. So that's that. But we had a lot tonight. Who's texting me? We had a lot tonight. So I wanted to share all of those with everybody. So that's that. So listen, please like the podcast. If you did not watch Tuesday's episode of Life with Mary Walters, so it would be the 11th, the 11th, to see, we had I don't know. I hope it was fun to watch because we had so much fun doing that show. We really did. They figured out that the club was going to, they figured out the club and then you had to put it on upside down. Oh, I didn't know that.
Right.
I forgot that. I had one. Mine was red.
Yeah.
Put on.
So I love looking for all that stuff. That was a good time.
Yeah, please. So we had a great time on Tuesday. Go back and watch it. We will be doing another Life with Mary Walter this coming Tuesday. I'm not quite sure what we're going to talk about yet. It will not be like the last one, which was all video and hilarious. We had so much fun, but hopefully we'll have fun on the one on Tuesday. But it's not political, so it's a lighter show. Maybe some social issues we can get into. Maybe a good discussion. but it is a lot of fun. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so, and please like the videos. We appreciate that as well. I will put all of the things in the bottom, all the details, all the links for all of the articles that we talked about today, if you would like to see them. So everybody have a fantastic weekend. And I will be on the Chris Salcedo show on Monday on Newsmax TV, sometime between 4:30 and 5 o'clock Eastern time. They've been moving it around. It was always 5:45. Then it was 5:35, sometimes, 4:35, sometimes 4:15, usually consistently between 4:30 and 5 o'clock, somewhere in there. So 4:30, 5 o'clock Eastern time on the Chris Salcedo show. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic weekend. Bye.
You're listening to Mary Walter.
I believe that the times require imagination and courage and perseverance. I'm asking each of you to be pioneers towards that new frontier. My call is to the young and hard.